because I feel like he would pick him up one that he would intentionally hate, so he can feel validated in hating the captain.
Who do you guys think the pick is on? I think it's still either me.
It doesn't matter.
Nathan, or
How about we
Dylan.
do this review because Dylan needs to conserve his energy.
Oh yeah, let's do
It's true. My arm is
Okay. Ready? Well, everybody, welcome to the Effing Movie Podcast. I am your host today, Price,
Turn him
with
down.
Nathan, Mason, and Dylan.
Woo.
He is feeling under the weather because he got his booster shot. Get vaccinated.
Gets it boosty.
Yeah.
Speaking of vaccinations, and maybe it doesn't cast them in the best light, we are talking about I Am Legend today, which may be a good anti-vax.
They weren't ready for it.
No, I think it was incredibly realistic for the situation that was presented in modern day.
They did
Really?
this in 2007.
This is
We're
the-
living it in
This
2021.
is the profit. So it's funny. I remember this movie kind of sticking out as being like a profit movie because they have so many things in like New York, like Batman versus Superman and stuff, which had not been a thing until.
Oh, that's a good point. I
Yeah.
saw that billboard.
Yeah, this is gonna turn out to be like a Simpsons episode. The older
Mhm.
it gets, because it just keeps calling predictions for things that hadn't happened
Yeah.
yet. Oh, but boy, did this movie hit close to home.
Let's talk about the game that we're playing real quick. Nathan?
This is 60 seconds. It's basically there's an atomic bomb about to drop in 60 seconds. Oh,
You're in Nuketown?
Oh, I forget how you control this, and I
He is zooming.
hate it. Okay, so I have to gather up what
My
I
wife.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need my wife. I also
You don't
need
need
my
that.
kid.
No, you could leave those.
There's a person behind you.
Yeah, there's another kid.
And there we go. I dumped him, and there, yeah,
Grab the nanny.
gotta grab her. She's a little bigger.
Whoa, thicker.
Hey, look, I'm
A
just saying she took
flashlight.
up more of my hands. I have
Oh,
4
that's-
hands apparently.
Oh, she's a bigger woman, so she takes
Wow.
more hands.
Okay.
Well,
But yeah, so I'm gonna try and gather what I can here, and make it
Soup.
through the apocalypse.
let's get that gun.
We get-
And I
Is there a gun?
feel
Yeah,
like
keep
I'm.
going on that.
Oh, hey,
No
that's
room.
pretty cool. Maybe
You
I
got
can.
10 seconds.
Well, give me a
Get-
second
Get
here.
the gun.
I might have time.
All
to
right,
grab
well,
my
maybe
gun.
this relates to I Am Legend somehow, but I'm a person that maybe hasn't seen this movie, and I would really appreciate it if somebody gave me a summary for this movie, and Mason seems like he is just the person to do so.
So basically, Robert Neville is this super incredible scientist. An outbreak happens. An outbreak that happens, and it basically just shuts down society. It kills 98% of people. No, 95% of people, roughly.
Yeah.
It kills
Right away.
90%, and then 1% is
Showed
immune,
immunity.
leaving 9% that became the dark. The
Dark Seekers. is
Dark
what they're
Dark
called.
Seekers.
The girl calls them Dark Seekers. They're basically vampires that are a little different than your normal vampires. They're kind of like zombie vampire mixes.
Yeah.
And basically, he is just trying to find the cure. He's doing research and, I don't know, experimenting on rats and bodies and trying to find other civilization while he's out and about.
Right.
Everything goes south after he, after he gets tricked. He gets bamboozled and, I don't know, he meets a girl along the way with her son.
Goes downhill from there.
Kind of bamboozles himself in a way, though.
He
That's what I was
does.
gonna ask if we're getting into it a little bit.
Sure.
Is like where did he place that trap like a long time ago?
No, he just placed it like the day before.
I didn't-
Or maybe it was
I-
it was actually probably a few days before. That's how he got the girl.
Right.
Wait, what trap are we talking about?
No, see,
The
the one
trapper's
trap that I
cousin.
do remember
Where he
is
gets
like
the
he
concussion.
placed it like in front of the door,
Yeah.
and then like he
Yeah.
tricks him with the vial of blood, gets that one.
Literally his snare, yeah.
Yeah, but
Right,
the
yeah.
second one's the one I'm asking
The
about.
one
Well,
where he
the
gets the
second
concussion.
one where he gets caught.
Yes.
That's the Dark Seeker
Yeah.
trapping him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Remember
they-
Frank?
Th- So
the mannequin? The,
Yeah.
the bad
he,
guys.
he,
yeah.
he put it somewhere like. So the thing about Will
Ah,
Smith's
or Fred.
character is he's definitely, obviously going crazy,
Right.
Yeah.
but at the same time, he is at least cognizant enough to know like there's no way that mannequin just moved on its own.
Right.
Somebody moved that mannequin there, which is why he freaked out so much about it
Yeah.
and shot at it, but still made the mistake of walking up
Approaching
to
it.
it to inspect it,
Yeah.
Right.
which is where he got caught by the Dark Seeker's trap.
I totally didn't put that together, but
Really?
yeah. Well, because for me, here's the love-hate of this movie, which not necessarily bad, but it just keeps you guessing, is that Will Smith is an unreliable narrator because he keeps giving you hints that he is very much losing his mind without the social activity.
Yeah.
So, when I see that scene, I think, I'm probably in the same mindset as Price, I guess, where it's just like, did he just place that, forget it, and then like started losing his shit because he's like, that's
I
not
can
where it
see
should have
that.
been?
Well, I think that definitely adds. Hopefully, that wasn't like a turn away for you guys.
No,
Just
not
thinking
at
it
all.
was like, okay, good.
I think once that's explained, I'm like, oh yeah, that feels valid because the Alpha Chad Mobot, whatever.
Yeah, I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, the main antagonist, zombie vampire guy, was like clearly showing intellect and
And-
stuff like that. So I don't feel like
Yeah.
that's forced.
The thing is, too, Robert Neville's super like headstrong on this. Like, these vampires have no intuition. They have no intimacy. They have no like hierarchy. They are just soulless things that are just trying to survive. And like the
Right.
whole movie, he is just painting this picture where like that was a perfect example of okay, maybe they are a little smarter.
Mhm.
The next one is like, I think they trap him too. Well, no, hang on. There's been examples like throughout, but he keeps stating even to the girl and so on that like these people they're just trying to survive. Like they're not people anymore,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
so like him losing his mind on that and still just being in that same state of like this has to be someone else. This isn't the zombies. That's why he approached it.
Yeah.
Well, the reason like I'm still having trouble like believing like that trap thing
Yeah.
that y'all are telling me that like the Darkseekers put it there or whatever is because until this moment they've really never shown any signs of intelligence in my opinion. Like I haven't seen anything that would make me suggest that they are smart enough to get a mannequin out because they know he has
Well-
a relationship with them.
So the one tease that you shoot. The,
Our stream, no! Mason.
the one tease that you get at first that there's something more to them, and he also mentions this as well, is he goes to trap that one in the tarp, right? And the other one runs out and like stands in the sun for a minute just to like yell at him.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that he points out whenever he's like having his little recording
Doing the
talking about
string.
how strange it was that one was ignoring its instincts
But
and
that
was
see,
shouting at
that
him.
doesn't really matter to me though, because that to me is like them like he's waking up the horde. The horde realizes there's a potential meal outside, and they're almost willing to brave the sun in order to get that meal. That I'm not
maybe.
seeing it as that guy because trust me, it all leads to something. Like because I never see the zombies having like an attraction towards one another,
What?
and your people are all dead for some reason.
Hey, spoiler for the end of this movie.
60 seconds.
But because like I never saw the zombies having any kind of attraction to each other, just like they're zombies, and that's basically about it. Unless you watch the alternate ending, which I'm sure we'll talk about ad nauseum here in a minute, which does show that apparently they do have some kind of feelings and thoughts, but that's not the ending that you get in this movie, and that's not what I would consider canon. So that doesn't really matter to me. So still that. With the ending that we got, the original, like that trap being there, still does not make sense to me. Like,
Well,
I'm not led to
even-
believe they have that much intelligence.
Even if it isn't to try to like put you on the train tracks of like, oh, these people are more intelligent. It's more or less just like a certain climax of the movie. Like it's more or less like he needs to lose this dog. He needs to be wounded in his leg. He needs something bad needs to happen to Robert Neville.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it's just kind of a Hollywood shit. He's been concussed. It's the sun's going down. Oh my god.
I've got a question for you
Yeah.
because I know that we've kind of talked about this a little bit
Mhm.
beforehand. Did you know anything about the book before you
Mhm.
watched the movie?
That's good.
Never.
So the first time that you watched the movie, having learned a little bit about the book,
hmm
did that make some of the like intelligence of the Darkseekers more apparent?
It did. Having known it, yes.
Yeah,
But
'cause that's kind of where I think that's one of those things that Price hates, which is there's outside
content.
knowledge to this film
yeah,
that actually makes what you see happen during the film
a little bit
more
more
contextualized
yeah.
and also more more like you're more interested in that,
Yeah.
so you pick up on it and you're
You
like,
try
oh
to find
cool,
those
like they're
things.
kind of referencing a little bit more of what happens in the book.
Yeah.
Unless the movie opens with the prologue saying like read the book before you watch this movie, I don't really
And
care.
just to briefly get into the book part of it, in the books, the main character is the bad guy.
Mhm.
He doesn't know that he's the bad
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
But in the world that he's in, vampires have
Or the
basically
new
it's
society.
outright vampires.
Yes.
Like it's not like zombie unintelligent creatures. They are vampires and they rule the world, and he is just going out during the day and murdering them in their sleep.
Yeah.
And they are like evolving as a society. They are they actually create like a vaccine that allows them to negate most of the ill effects of
Side
being in the
effects.
sun.
Yeah.
At
That's
one
a lot
point,
different.
Yeah.
At
Oh,
one
it's-
point,
it's
they
way different.
they end up kind of tricking him by having somebody come in as a spy, and she
Heck.
like he couldn't tell that she was one of them too because of like basically how much they advanced technologically. All that being said, a lot of that was just to really kind of paint the picture that this guy thinks that he's fighting for the last scraps of humanity, but really he's just this monster living in a world that is now normalized around these people and the society that they've built instead.
Right.
So all of the stuff with an intelligence to these other beings in the world does like catch your attention more and is a thing that you pay much more attention to because you want to see that in this movie because of knowledge of the book.
Yeah.
So, and it's one of those things, hearing that and seeing like the pretty vast difference in things. That I think it just comes back to, I think this is kind of like the pro-con of it for me, is that I like some psychological stuff that kind of gets teased here, because that, again, second guessing it, did he place that off screen and we're getting unreliable narrators, or is it like the Dark Eater guys or whatever?
Yeah.
Dark Eater.
The Dark Eaters.
Yeah,
Harry
that name
Potter
will
guys.
change 7 more
Yeah.
times beforehand. But, and it more likely is having that, background explanation and stuff with that. But I think even that being some, like, debatably ambiguous, I think is part of the fun of the movie. Like, I think having Will Smith kind of go off the rails, especially on the later end when he finally starts interacting with, like, social people again, and then, losing the dog and things like that.
Yeah.
I think really sets a tone for when this movie really gets into it. But there's some qualms I have a little bit at the beginning of it, and it's small. It's not very super big. I have to start with, it's a little too convenient that he's a great lieutenant soldier, colonel or whatever, but also the renowned scientist. It was just like,
He does both.
Yeah.
fuck, how do we have a Swiss Army knife character do everything we need and not have
And he's part of the 1%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's also the 1% of
That
it.
is the thing. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a little
And he's
little
Will Smith.
much.
And he's
Right.
Will Smith.
And of course it's to be fair,
And
Will
none of
Smith
that
probably
comes from the
means-
source material.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
not,
No.
part
Right.
of the original story.
and that's the what I would call the Will Smith effect.
But
right?
here's the thing too, he's good with a gun.
yeah.
Is a very simple, really smart
It's-
scientist
it's an
gonna
important
survive
plot.
in a world like this in New York City with a billion
I
horde
think
members?
they can give us that without having him.
I don't know. You
I
gotta be a
think-
soldier.
I think that without him, being a soldier in background, just being a scientist who had to survive for this long,
Mhm.
that could explain enough that he's gotten pretty good with a gun. Like, he doesn't need to be professional, like, expert with it. Show him be a little not as good. And to be
Sure.
honest, his gun discipline's not always the best.
It's not that great.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah,
in the
you
apartment. He
say
was
that- Yeah, I was gonna say, you say that he's good with a gun. I don't think he's good
Right.
with a gun.
But it's so stupid, like, beforehand, like, when he's yelling at Fred, like, the mannequin or whatever,
Yeah.
he is, like, 50 yards or something from that mannequin, and,
He's
like,
even
is
further.
not, like, he's not aiming down the sights, and it's
Yeah.
lighting that
He's
mannequin
hip
up.
firing
And you
and
see him
everything.
hitting the mannequin, and, like, from that far, hip firing, and then there's a zombie, like, this close,
From here
and
to
he's
the-
like,
Yeah, and he's
Shove.
just firing wildly as it just evades all of his bullets.
It's when it's convenient, right?
Yeah,
and
well.
that's
there's a
like,
lot of
so much
conveniences.
of this
Right.
is just like movie convenience.
Exactly.
And like
Yes.
the rule of cool in movies is what
Yeah.
this film does a lot of.
And without any background in the book, it just makes it a Hollywood kind of movie with
Right,
some
yeah.
crazy, sort of scary
And
zombie.
with it being
vampires.
Will Smith as well, it's a
Yeah.
little too on the nose because that's such a Will Smith trope. Like,
Here's the thing. All right, so here's some of my cons.
Pick the girl.
Will Smith,
uh-huh.
puckered face.
Yeah.
It checks all the boxes in most of his movies, right? That
What are you talking Oh.
Yeah.
Right? And then
He
he's
always
just being ripped in his apartment
Yeah.
complex, running on the treadmill, doing 15 pull-ups that you have to see.
I'm
all
sure he
15
put that in
of.
the contract. Every time
For
he's
sure.
ripped, he's just like, I'm gonna need scenes where it shows how ripped I am.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I have is one-liners. All of these things
Yes.
are so standard for any Will Smith movie that
Uh-huh.
is anything to do with action, barring concussion and maybe like I don't know, Pursuit of Happiness.
Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah, I was trying to think. I was like that. Or,
Yeah.
I can't ever remember if it's Pursuit of
I'll
Happiness.
tell you, one of my cons is every time there's like a scene change or something like that, a lot of times it's accompanied by a really loud noise.
Yeah, it was jarring.
Anybody remember
that?
I think it was
The
lack of
audio
dialogue.
mixing on this
Yeah.
does basically
It's not-
really try and like ramp up the sound super high, and then like the other side of it is like it gets suddenly loud, but then it also just immediately hard cuts to like
Back
another
to
silent
Right.
scene.
Quiet, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot like The Quiet Place because he didn't have anyone to talk to, so he had to
Mhm.
like say some one-liners to the dog. He had to narrate a little bit. He had to talk to the
Right.
camera for the streaming research part of it. It's-
Just speaking
yeah.
kind of quick on the technicals,
The man didn't even make it.
we I feel like we have to point out the CGI.
Oh,
CGI was-
We're
yes.
looking rough now
Eh,
in this.
Well, we got
Absolutely.
Thanos.
Yeah,
Well,
like-
and- yeah.
These look
man.
like way worse orcs, right? They look like
it is super bad. The dogs are also really bad. The lions
Yeah.
The
don't
lions,
look very good.
the deer are like jarringly different from.
they look huge.
It-
Yeah.
So,
Those deer were
like,
massive.
basically, the Dark Seekers, they
Seekers,
look like
yes.
something
I'll
that
get
you
that.
would see in a video game now.
For sure.
Yeah.
And even then, you'd be like, that doesn't look very good.
Yeah, this is like
you guys could have
PS3
done better.
model.
Like, this is like an indie developed zombie game
Mhm.
level zombie at this point, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to beat up too hard on it because again, it's a product of its time, but we have to
Yeah.
reflect when movies age and it shows. And man, the CG it's a little it's pretty gross about
Yeah,
right now.
it does take you out of it. That's really the question with CG is like, does it take you out of the movie? And for me, yeah, like seeing the way the mouth opened up just way too big and
Right.
stuff, that always distracted me out of whatever the scene was.
Which still makes me just appreciate Jurassic Park even more because it makes no sense why
It's a 10.
why it still looks so good, the CG.
Yeah.
Like it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like the scene where like they're in the car and the T-Rex is chasing them or
Yep.
whatever.
That's
Like that
nice.
still looks
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
good.
Well, they also smartly like
Mm-hmm.
had that kind of shot in a really dark.
Right.
It was at
Mhm.
night
Good
and
point.
raining.
But
That
there's enough night scenes here where they
also-
could have used those same lessons, and for
Yeah.
a movie that's 14 years later, for them not to practice good
And to
models.
learn that from like
Yeah.
one of the biggest movies
Right,
like,
right.
ever.
Yeah.
The only fight back I can have with that as a
Fight back.
counter is like this was New York City and like all of those panning shots. I can't imagine how much work had to go into there to basically
Oh,
just
this-
be like
yeah.
erase.
The detail
Add
Well,
grass,
for that.
add
and,
this, add
and like
that.
add the completely tarped over
Yes.
skyscrapers for like
Yeah.
quarantine
purposes,
buildings.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, that's what I liked about this. And evidently this was going to be placed in like Los Angeles, and they were like, no one even knows anything in Los Angeles. Like we
Yeah.
have to have Times Square, we have to have New York City.
Right.
So like
New York is more memorable landscape.
like well the lions didn't really look great, the deer and all that stuff, the chase scene with the Shelby at the very beginning, like that
That's
was
when
all
he, that's,
just Hollywood.
That's
like,
when he should have
Yeah.
got concussed. Like
driving
driving like a
rear-wheel drive.
lunatic.
Right.
Yeah,
Well-
driving like crazy, and also with talking about driving these vehicles, it does have to be said that it's kind of annoying how shiny and brand new that.
Beautiful.
Like,
this guy's
he-
waxing
he-
these
yeah.
cars on his office.
It's the apocalypse. He's trying to save humanity by coming up with the cure,
Yeah.
and this man's waxing his.
If you told me this character was doing that, though, I don't find that non-believable, though. Like,
I would be
you-
bored.
in your
he
monotony,
definitely has like this mindset of I need routine.
right?
Yeah.
Like, he still needs to have some.
Like
and-
going to the video store every day.
Right. I think that's
pumping gas,
right. Still
Yeah.
pretty
harvesting
human thing.
corn.
I don't hate it for it, knowing that that's like a truth you have to accept in the movie is a little funny, but
Mhm.
overall, I think again that there's been enough precedence in this movie where he's trying to
He's back.
keep himself
Yeah.
in some form of like modern day routine to keep his sanity. Like that's the breaking point.
Yeah.
I got a small question before we get to the big question.
Uh,
Mainly for you two and myself. Do you think that Mason felt more emotional at the death of the dog in this movie? Or where does everybody think I'm going with this?
No, I think that he doesn't.
The
feel
Dear
that-
Zachary death.
Oh, Dear Zachary. No,
Do you think he got more emotional about Dear Zachary or the dog dying?
I don't think he shed a tear either way at this point
Man,
because it's
I
so
said
so
more-
much
the
loss.
more
moment where you
emotional.
realize like the family part, I assume that's what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
I still didn't really care about that very much because I was just like, okay, cool. So now we know that he's not like pining over
Right.
this thing that he can't have.
yeah.
Like he is just he is so fully invested in what he's got because that's all he's got.
That's all he's got. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 2 shots and dead inside right now, so I don't think Mason feels anything. But
All right. So you know what I have written down on my notes is
What's that?
the Sam death scene after he gets concussed all the way up until he's just smothering her is a top 10 cinematic scene in my opinion. It is
Boo this man!
Wait,
So
Woo!
from the moment he gets concussed,
because of the dog chase and like the dog scene, and he has that like
so it's kind
For
of
me.
cool, but
For you,
For me,
for
there's,
me, maybe.
to me, the thing that like there's several things about it that I think are just movie narrative choices
Yeah.
and decisions that I don't think make sense like as a character.
Mhm.
So Will's his decision to crawl across the ground
Silly.
slowly,
Yeah.
Yes.
but then at one point deciding he can fully
Let me
get up.
just get up and hop. Yeah, let me hop. Yeah.
he
Like,
let
he's
that
gonna
dog
get up and
die.
hop.
Yeah.
And then also later he's gonna walk over and fully pick up a German Shepherd,
Right.
And load
even
her into
though
the
he
car,
was
yeah.
so injured that he had to drag ass across
Yeah.
the entire like quarter of a mile back to his car.
I think that
While
dog.
he knows the sun is going down and there's murder dogs on the other side of the line.
Yeah.
I think Sam.
Oh, that would make you forget everything about your leg.
I think Sam took
Yep.
took a shit in one
Took
of the cars.
15 years to wrap up. I had that exact
But you
in a
said,
con.
but you said it's a top 10.
No, that was a con
movie.
of the movie. I'm just saying that the scene afterward. So,
Oh,
like you said,
the following scene.
You're
not
saying about
the
him
scene of-
killing his
okay.
dog.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
yeah, but you have to have the part right before that. I agree. It took 15 years for him to crawl from that puddle
Yeah.
to get to his car and load up the German Shepherd. I totally agree. It's silly. Plus, the dogs were waiting on this much sunlight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
That was
And I'm like,
silly.
you could have hopped
That
over
was
that.
silly.
They
Yeah.
could
That
make
was
that
well,
joke.
it was
But-
silly, but you could maybe argue that though the human dark seekers are they
Advanced.
they could have
Rationalize it,
crossed that
yeah.
line and could have made that
Animals
rationalization.
are
Like
getting more
I
primal.
understand what hurts
Yeah.
me. The dogs don't.
They just want to
They
wait
just
for
they see
safety.
that
yeah.
light and they're just like,
Mhm.
nope,
Yeah.
So
Feel like an electric fence thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know what? I'll give Mason. Not that I agree with it.
Don't you give him anything.
I'll
Give him no quarter.
Give me a mile.
I'll give him a couple inches.
Cool.
Don't do it, Price. So I'll give him a couple inches in
Oh.
in that saying that I think he's allowed to have that opinion, even if I disagree with the moment in itself, because I
Of
think
course he is.
dogs dying in cinema have become between this and John Wick have
John
been
Wick, there we
are
go.
defining. Listen, but we all fucking know John Wick for this, like for that
Yeah.
scene,
Yeah.
and it is defining enough where it's just like, oh, dog, or somebody killed a dog. Somebody would make a John Wick reference even if they've never seen it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Well-
you know what? This did it beforehand, and it's been a little bit of a Simpsons thing, and doing it ahead of the curve. Maybe not as well, in my opinion, but it was emotional enough where I was like, you know what? I think it's bold, but I'll let you have it.
I think
Mason. I won't
also,
fight you over
also as a dog owner, your dog makes mistakes. Like
Yeah.
even if you have the most well-trained dog in the world, they're
Well,
gonna
Griffin
get
makes
into
nothing
little
but mistakes.
little issues. Another point that I have is like one of the most tense moments is when Sam first runs into that building for no fucking reason. Like she
yeah.
forgets all kinds of training.
Yeah.
And
she
doesn't
does-
listen to him at all.
Does
Right.
not listen.
Well, and why is to me that dog's been around for 3 years.
3.5. Yeah.
Yeah. How has this not happened already? Like, how is
To
this
that
dog
extent,
not
I don't
already
know.
dead with the way he just doesn't have it on a leash
Yeah.
or anything?
Yeah.
Right.
And, I mean, a dog's going to chase stuff. Like,
Dog's gonna- yeah.
he hunts deer and lets the dog go
Dog
after
will
the
get
deer like that does any good whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that dog would have done this already so
Yeah.
many times.
That's true.
Yeah.
I guess it was just again a Hollywood scene that got you. I guess a little bit more.
It's one
tense
of the, like, yeah,
and-
it had to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think
Right.
that that's the reason it should have happened.
Yeah.
That there's some argument that that's a very
It-
silly cause.
In a
but-
way, it just kind of introduced. Oh, hey, by the way, these hordes hide in dark places and these
Yeah.
skyscrapers and these abandoned
Yeah,
buildings.
and-
So
Yeah.
like,
And introduce Alpha.
Yeah.
Alpha zombie.
Chad
guy.
Dark.
Yeah, 'cause he was
Chad. Alpha Chad.
yeah.
Chad Darky.
Yeah, I mean that's
Darkseeker.
that's true. It also gives you that really creepy scene of them all just like huddled in the
Yeah.
corner, just
Eating
like.
on a something.
Well,
Well,
they
if you-
weren't eating. Like
Oh,
just
they
the
weren't.
ones that were all just standing there,
Yeah.
just like breathing really quickly, just kind of like rocking back and forth.
I will say, like, about the zombies, my favorite scene in this movie, like, overall, was definitely the one where Will Smith's going to the dock or whatever to basically kill himself.
Mhm.
And, like, it opens with all the, like, zombies or whatever, like, running up on him. But, like, it's silent and all you hear is their feet
Yeah.
shuffling on the ground.
Pattering.
Like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I really like that a lot.
Okay, so let's talk about the alternate ending, then we can get into the question.
Okay, I won't lie to you. I did not get a chance to watch it. I was.
We can describe it. So
Yeah,
you've
but
seen
go ahead.
the
You're not gonna spoil it for
theatrical
me.
It's
Go ahead and do
it's
it.
super simple.
Sure.
So instead of, so they still all just run down to the plexiglass little
Okay.
safe bunker that's not so safe.
Zombies are down there.
They got through the steel door easier
Well-
than they did the glass door, and I just want to point out my annoyance with that, just real quick. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can
I
have
mean,
the you
the
want.
plexiglass kind of.
It's not
I mean-
supposed to be that strong, I don't think.
It's not that strong, but I'm not here for that. Anyway,
Ow.
Yeah.
so the alternate ending.
So basically, instead of him handing her a grenade, or I'm sorry, him getting a grenade and
Grenade would be
handing her a syringe or a vial or something,
Yeah.
or vial, is it vial? And telling her to skedaddle, he basically looks at that guy. Oh, the Chad guy, the Alpha, makes a butterfly with his hands,
Uh-huh.
like a smudgy on the window.
Okay, so I do want to ask real
Yeah.
quick because where I watched it,
Mhm.
the alternate ending is the one that it actually
Me
went
too.
with.
Me too.
So I was wondering.
I watched it on HBO Max, and it was the original.
Yeah, it should be original.
Okay, so it was the grenade for you guys.
Yeah.
That's the like canon ending.
That's
That's,
right.
what, that's what I saw
Yeah.
in theaters.
Well, that's the
yeah.
theatrical ending.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I would definitely argue that the alternate ending is
This other one.
Yeah.
well, it's the one that it should have been.
Mm.
Oh, I agree. I think because it makes a lot more sense. It wraps back to the trap thing where you're like, oh, like
Yeah.
they do have the
Right.
capability
And they
to do
allude
this.
to it multiple times with like the butterfly tattoo on the subject that he's working on.
And his daughter. Even,
And his
like,
daughter.
stuff.
So
Right.
basically, he makes a little smudgy butterfly. Then he notices the tattoo on the thing on the girl's neck or whatever, and then he tells the girl to open the door, and he literally just backs the stretcher out of the thing. They close behind him, and they're just surrounding him. And he sticks her with a syringe and gets her breathing again the way that she was breathing whenever she was with Chad. And he picks her up, and he screams at Will Smith, still standing in front of all of these vampires. And then they all just get called away.
But first, Will Smith gets a syringe and gets a vial of blood from the
Yeah.
girl.
Fail safe, which makes
And
sense.
that's
Yeah, it's very.
and then you see them driving to Vermont
Was Will Smith with him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably like
because his
that.
place is fucking torched.
Yeah,
Well-
I was about to say he doesn't have a home anymore.
So I do want to mention too, like watching these two different endings, you know, in a lot of ways, this movie reminds me so much of like video game kind of stuff, especially with like the CG monsters and everything.
The jump scare.
But
sort
this
of.
alternate ending thing, and how it's like, you know, if you had chose these decisions at this moment,
Like a
this
Telltale game?
character-
Yeah.
well,
But your choices actually matter.
Alpha Chad
like
will
Until
remember
Dawn,
this.
Or Detroit.
like any
Or
of
Detroit?
like Man of Medan, Until Dawn, those kind of games.
Oh,
is-
all till dawn where it actually matters. Yeah.
Right.
like
totally.
basically, it felt like one of those things where I was just watching, like, so what would have happened if I had made this other decision instead?
Maybe I didn't
Basically.
capture this girl and
God.
to start experimenting on
That's such a great game.
it.
There's a new one coming out soon.
I'm gonna.
Until dawn?
Not so. Have you not followed any of the
The
ones that they've
publisher.
released since?
Oh,
then?
most of them been terrible. I played them.
Okay, well, there's another one coming out. I've liked.
Did you
it.
play the one on the ship?
Yeah.
I hated that one.
Okay.
I will. I'm gonna throw my bid in for the regular theatrical ending.
Ben,
I don't know if the alternate ending would have fared as well. I'm not saying that the regular one did, but just for like a common moviegoer that isn't really in touch with all of the, oh, I want these things to be advanced. I want
I
these
agree with you.
things. So like, I would almost, if I didn't look into the lore of it and everything, I would be more upset at the fact that he just assumed that he wasn't gonna get ravaged and like destroyed by these things if he just opened the door and handed over his goods. So I kind of like the grenade one more myself, but I'm also I like to watch the world burn,
Right.
and I like to think that there was a random little tunnel for that woman to leave because that's a good just backdoor exit.
no, he
You know, I
said
don't
wait
know
until
what that
dawn.
thing is.
I love
but,
it.
Like what? Well, I just mean like that little.
It looked like a
room.
furnace or
It was
like
a
a
coal.
yeah,
it was
like-
a coal chute.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
say like that. Like I feel like you see that in old hospital like lab spaces
yeah.
in movies and media in general.
Mm.
But yeah, so it's a coal chute usually.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, he said that's why. Because I remember when I watched it originally, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then he said like wait until dawn, and then he goes and kills them all, and then they can leave.
So yeah, that's just my thing with the whole alternate ending. I like them both. I do think that for normal purposes, him just he's lost everything, and he doesn't believe in Vermont. He doesn't believe in God. The whole speech, there is no God thing. I really enjoyed that too, just because like that finally gives you his last efforts of just like, I'm done here. Like, I have researched to my fingertips. I've been bleeding. Like, I'm done. I've lost my freaking dog now. You guys are telling me there's safe haven somewhere. I don't believe that. This is ground zero. He says it a billion times.
Yeah.
So him dying at the end, I'm not going to say it's completely earned. I just think it's more for the story, even though, I don't know, some people might not like it.
Or the story takes us at that point, that's who he was at the end of it.
I don't think this dude's changing his mind.
Yeah.
But
Question.
that was actually just which thing would you prefer?
Endings, yeah.
Which, but...
I prefer the alternate one.
Oh,
Because it
hang on.
makes a lot more things
I
make
have
sense.
2 facts real fast that I thought you guys would like, especially you, Bryce.
Bryce.
So, have you ever heard of Faith No More?
Yeah.
Yep.
They do this on Epic.
Mike Patton, lead singer of Faith No More, provided the creepy screams for the infected. So the lead
All
singer
right.
of Faith No More screamed.
Interesting.
And lastly, Will Smith developed a dog crush on one of the German Shepherds that they used. He tried to adopt that dog, but the dog trainer refused.
Will Smith killed that dog trainer. Now owns that dog.
Guess he didn't like her that much.
Yeah.
No, those are the only 2 things.
And I also did notice, I was like, that little kid looks kind of familiar. That,
Oh,
like,
Charlie
the-
St.
whatever.
Cloud?
He's in Ozark. He's one of the
He's
main characters in
he's the little
Ozark.
son, yeah.
Winds up humping the old woman.
I don't remember that.
I don't know about any of that.
Definitely happened.
Scorsese's?
Scorsese's?
Scorsese's. Let's do it. I'll go last.
Okay, Nathan.
Works for me.
This movie is dated. It's still really solid though. I think I do like it extra for what I'm like trying to claw out of it beyond, what it's giving me.
Yeah.
Mostly because of like the extra outside knowledge. Yeah, I mean it's good. I want to give it a good score, but there's still so much that takes me out of it.
Too much Hollywood, too much...
It's too Hollywood. I don't like really obviously bad decisions being made by characters just for the point of moving the plot along.
And getting them into worse situations later.
Like that kind of stuff frustrates me a great deal.
Yeah.
So overall, though I would like to give it higher, I'm just gonna land at a 7.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still really good, and I like a lot of what it does. We didn't really talk a whole lot about the fact that, all the locations he was in. It's like this guy literally had the run of the city. He was going into like the museums and hanging out and like, being on the top, like on the wing of a stealth bomber and just chipping shots out into
At an airfield or
Main
something.
Street. Like super cool.
Yeah.
Like really visually cool stuff to be doing.
Points that like really don't matter for the plot, but at least it gives you the idea that he's actually he's the king of the city now.
Yeah.
He is the only one left.
Yeah.
He can do whatever he wants to as long as the sun's out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of sentiments Nathan put out. It's definitely aged. The CG looks rough. But that being said, watching it this time through, I still felt engaged in it, even if it does have a lot of Will Smith's tropey stuff, which is my... It's so hard with Will Smith, because sometimes I like it and sometimes I can't fucking stand it. Like, if I think about Suicide Squad, he's not a character, he's Will Smith. In this one, he's mostly a character, but he's still definitely Will Smith.
iRobot is a billion times worse. I just rewatched it the other day, and it is the most like cringy one-liner.
Yeah.
I'm a super soldier. I'm gonna be a badass.
It's been a long time
Dude,
since I've seen
I shouldn't have rewatched it.
Oh.
It's okay. It's just you get him. Time to
God.
go.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, things took a bad turn.
You should wipe his nose.
Yeah.
What happened to the daughter?
Yeah.
That's the wife.
No. Where does she
Yeah.
go?
She disappeared. I can't really like focus on reading this.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
This game is interesting because it tells you a lot of stories and you're getting to make a lot of. It's a game worth playing for sure.
Whenever they die, he just.
It seems interesting. How much is it?
I think I got it like included with some.
Okay, I was gonna say if it's like $5, that seems worth it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry, Dylan.
Yeah, I guess to wrap up my thoughts on it, all things considered, though, I still found it pretty engaging. I still liked what the movie did with Will Smith. He didn't go too over the top with himself, and there was enough moments where man, Will Smith crying, although it's kind of memed at this point, like, I felt engaged in some of the times where he was really, like, breaking down into it, and I was like, this is believable, and I can get on board with it. Sure, there's Hollywood factors and stuff to it, but I don't think it does enough to shoot this movie too far down for me. So I'm going to put it right at a 7.5.
Nice. I think the reason why you don't get as much Will Smith chaotic energy that you would always get is because he doesn't have anyone to talk to.
Yeah.
He doesn't have jokes and badass things to say because there is no one to say them to.
Right. Who knew that that's all you need to do to make Will Smith be, like,
Quiet.
really acting?
Yeah.
Speaking of chaotic energy of Will Smith, our former co-host Dustin wanted me to relay that Will Smith peaked in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He just wanted you to know that.
I can't respect him anymore.
He's also the one who picked Cabin in the Woods, thinking we'd all hate it like he did.
Yeah.
And it's
Loved it.
our like
He
one of our
loved
highest average reviewed on us.
Yeah,
for it.
he got really deceived by way of like loading up the negative and then coming in with the positive.
But, and then the score, it's
He-
this.
I think he knows that he's like my favorite actor, and he just wanted to
Yeah.
say that. Okay, good. I couldn't remember if he knew that or not.
I think it's surprising if people don't know that.
I should have put that on the
Yeah.
category.
Yeah.
I did enjoy this movie. I really like this is to me it almost seems around the time where like the big movies started not to be like as original as they were. Like this is a pretty unique concept and and for it to be as big as it was and have as big an actor attached to it and as big a budget, which is really cool. But there's just a lot of decisions, like Nathan said, that just got on my nerves that like they made, and even at like a directorial stance, like there's a lot of stuff I didn't like the audio mixing. I do like that it doesn't really have a score and it's silent most of the movie. I do like that actually. I think that's a prop to it, like to make you feel like oppressed and like just oppressed by the loneliness that Will Smith is. Which I liked, but just like those random like outbursts for no reason, like that are really loud, just really gets on my nerves. And the CG doesn't hold up, but we've beaten that dead horse. But I was originally gonna give this movie like a 6.5, but
Ooh,
you
6.5.
all made some good points to make me think like, yeah, this movie like does have a lot of conveniences that gets really annoying, and thinking more about the fact that like that trap was such a big deal to the movie. It led to his dog dying and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense. And the canonical ending that the movie gives us, like the zombies seem to just still be zombies to me. Like it doesn't make sense for them to make that trap in that whole scenario. So I am going to land at a 5.5 on it. Because there was a lot of conveniences that now that you all pointed out.
This
Wasn't
movie,
a fan of.
This movie is so Hollywoody. I mean, it really, really is. But I think, in 2007 you have... This is before most of the Marvel movies are coming out. This is...
That's right before.
Iron Man is out at this point.
08.
Maybe
It's 1 year
the
after.
first Iron Man?
Was 08?
2008.
Bullshit.
Wow.
2008?
He would know that.
I know.
Don't question him.
I believe it.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
that's
guess
right.
just... Yeah.
The the Ed Norton Incredible Hulk came out.
There's a
in 07.
cat now.
Yeah, I traded a can of beans for a cat.
That sounds like a bad move.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
in Apocalypse. You
Yeah.
don't be taking care of
Don't eat
extra
that
animals.
cat.
I mean,
Seems like that briefcase.
But yeah, before the Marvel Age. So
So for it being 07, I think that this movie really resonated just with all the crazy action-y. Let's be real, you don't make it in this world. You don't really want to make it in this world, especially when
not with Chad zombies like
yeah,
that.
those zombies were so fast.
Yeah.
There was a question that came up a long time ago on Twitter I saw, and it was like, what movie do you think you have seen the most out of any movie? And I landed on this movie. I have seen
Really?
this movie more than any other movie.
that's such.
Wow.
Because
such an unexpected.
if you had Dish or DirecTV growing up, cable, whatever, on FX, this movie was on
All
3 nights a week.
Oh, I
Right?
gotcha.
It's one of these
Yeah,
movies that are
okay.
just so overplayed.
We have the rights to it, so we're gonna use it.
Might as well.
Tuesday, we're gonna watch I Am Legend.
And then
followed by
Thursday-
it's I Am Legend again at 8.
And you'll never believe it, but Saturday we got I Am Legend on the
Yeah.
While you were watching that, I was watching Holes, so it could be worse.
I could fix that.
Um,
So for this movie, it has plenty of flaws, but it does just hold that love. It holds that passion for me, and I'm gonna give it a 9. I think that some of the issues are too bad of issues. I think this guy was way too headstrong.
But
But I did like it when the woman randomly came in, even though it was very convenient that he was about to kill himself and blah 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 blah.
Oh man,
kills you, right?
Thinking about
Like-
the moment of pure convenience,
And
there is no reason
No.
that this lady should have been out at night.
no,
And
she,
at
she
night.
knows
Good.
she
better.
was
Yeah.
waiting
How
at the pier since noon, the
Uh-huh.
exposition that she
Yep.
had to state that next morning.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow,
Yeah.
Robert Neville was just about, dead, and she was just there in the dark for some reason.
I guess he is by definition the luckiest man on
Maybe.
earth.
He really, he's the 1%,
Well,
he's a super soldier,
yeah.
scientist, woman saves
If there was a
him.
lotto to play, he would have won it twice.
And he
probably.
went toe to toe with the vampire zombie at the very end. If you watch that ending,
Yeah.
just brave and courageously, and he walked away from that too.
Yeah.
So whatever. But yeah, it's a 9. I think that as long as you can kind of turn your brain off. I think that it's a pretty good action movie, and it did remind me a lot of like A Quiet Place with just the lack of dialogue and how quiet it was. But I just like to see New York City all vacated and overgrown. That's all I've really got.
Do it.
Without
Pat,
further
will
ado,
you?
Yes, it is.
trying to.
You said you weren't strong enough to pick up the button earlier, but you can pick up the wheel.
No, I couldn't
He's still
stretch.
struggling
for
with
the
that.
bit. Yeah.
Damn you, Dylan.
I couldn't stretch to get it. This one was right here.
I want to spin it this time. I haven't got to do it in a while.
Trash spin, let's go.
Trash spin by Trash Boy. Woo!
Baby driver.
That was a pretty pathetic spin.
Well, what's that
Highlander.
go to?
Highlander.
Hey, you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah. Oh no, I gotta do it again. He said it was a bad spin.
No, we're happy with that.
What is it?
Actually, Highlander.
Highlander! I don't think I've ever seen that.
Neither.
Have you seen it?
I feel like I have, but it's been so long.
It's
gonna
one of
be a
those
fresh
things
one.
that you're
Alright.
talking about catching it on TV. Highlander
Was it on there?
was a
Lunch?
TV show and also
Also.
was one of those kind of movies that found its rotation on like sci-fi.
I feel like it
I was
was
gonna
on there
say,
Sci-Fi Channel at the
A
same time,
channel.
like with Merlin and a couple of those other like those period ones. But
Excalibur.
no, that one didn't.
That one didn't make it. It was too long for TV.
Yeah. Could you imagine that movie with commercials?
With commercials.
Yeah, 5 hours.
It's the
God.
all-day Excalibur
The
marathon.
only movie that gets away with that on like certain television is
Lord of the Rings.
Little House on the Prairie. I was gonna say
I can't tell you that.
Well, some of the old. Trust me, my mother-in-law has old TV, and
Oh.
it's on all day.
Well, we are getting horribly off track here, and it looks like we've beaten the game. I'm not sure how, but I'm not sure.
We
The cat-
won.
The cat is green now. But hope you enjoyed our content. We're talking about Highlander next week. It's one of the most blind picks we've had in a while. Nathan's the only one who's seen it, so that's pretty awesome.
We're sweeping all the old ones off the board.
Yeah, we're
that was your
finally getting
original.
through it.
Just
Yeah.
got to get bad education off, and I think we're good. But if you like our content, just comment, hit that bell, and
That
just
doesn't make sense when you
subscribe
do
and just
that.
let us know you're there.
The bell hits you sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
There you go.
That doesn't count. But anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one. It's the podcast.
Which podcast?
The Effing Movie Podcast.
Feature?
60 seconds. Re-atomized.